Okay, welcome, Emmanuel. So today's training is going to be on understanding and screening persons with learning disabilities. For me personally, I have had an experience with someone in my classroom who, while growing up, who had it challenging to absorb the knowledge that was taught, even writing her name. But recounting Lady Rosa's story just made me go back in time and realize that that person was actually suffering from one learning disability. And that's why it's very important that we have such a training so that we can understand and also assess people with learning disabilities in our spaces. So this training is going to last from the 18th of March to the 30th of July. It's a 2-day training. It's going to happen 2 days on each training, and we're having 5 trainings. So these today is the first or the main training for the year 2022, and I'm excited that all of you are here. So the mode of training, as you know, is going to be in Zoom, and also because it's a comprehensive training, I would advise that all of you participate, and at the end of the program, there will be a short test so that we can assess what you've gotten from the training, and also you receive an e-certificate after the July training. That's after the last training. So please stay tuned. And then I have a few housekeeping rules. I would want to encourage all of you to share your videos or turn on your videos. And as much as possible, stay muted. We would have, per the agenda, we'll be having a question and answer session right after the trainer has, or the facilitator has shared the her session or his space for today. And you can also type your questions as the sessions are progressing. You can type your questions in the chat box. I try as much as possible to take note of them, and after the session, we can just answer all of that. So alongside, we'll be having Martin, who would be doing the interpretation for our sign language, I mean, and we have to make this as inclusive as possible. So we'll have Martin, who would be doing the sign language for us. So have your notepads ready, get your book, grab a bottle of water, stay hydrated whilst this program rolls on. And like I said, welcome everybody to today's training. I'm so excited to see all of you. So right now we'll be introducing Lady Rosa. We need to understand why this training session, and she's the best person to tell us. I'm sure many of you might have encountered her, or maybe you've heard a story online or you've read somewhere. So we have her in our midst, and she will be giving us the opening remarks.
Hello, good evening to everyone. Welcome to today's edition of training on understanding and screening persons with learning disabilities. If some of you have attended some of our programs in the past, you know that I am a person with dyslexia, and that is why I take it a lot of pride that this is necessary. We have to do this because I'm a daughter of an educationist, but until like 5 years ago, when it discovered that I am a person with dyslexia, my parent had no idea. And what a shame. But then also not what a shame to my parents. I had to go through all the struggles of learning and being labeling as a dumb, lazy, uneducable and all that. And I feel like we don't want this to happen to anybody. And that is why Africa Dyslexia Organization, we focus on SDG Go 4 and Go 10. And it is our mandate to champion awareness and advocacy on dyslexia, focusing on dyslexia, but also touching on all learning disabilities as well, because as much as we want or we don't want, it is something that is happening. And if you're a teacher or your parent, I'm sure you have spotted some kind of challenges when it comes to your child, or you a teacher, your students, and you can't like even think about what is wrong with this child. But yes, there are students that are struggling in our classrooms, but we also do believe that every child can be able to learn if you use the right instructional method for the child. And that is why Africa Dyslexia Organization, we are here we don't teach students, but then we bring awareness, advocacy, and also put on training resources for you to gain. So we welcome you, and we hope that you will stay with us throughout March, twice each month from March to July, and get the full scope of the training outline that we have planned for you. I have to say thank you to our able volunteers who have been working to put together all these also for you. And I have to also say a very big thank you to NACOP as well for the support they have given us in putting together all these for you. So please sit, relax, get your notepad ready, and enjoy the training, and stay with us till July so that you can benefit fully. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So, like I said, this learning disabilities is usually identified in classroom spaces. That is why it's very necessary that we collaborate with the schools. And with that being said, we would be having a short message from Mr. Enoch Kwesi Jetua, and he is the National Council of Private Schools here in Ghana, and he has a short message for all of us. So hello, Mr. Enoch, if you're here, you can kindly address us.
Esther, go on with the introduction of the trainer whilst we connect. I see him connecting, but his audio is not connecting. So please go on introducing the trainer.
Okay, great. So I've seen, I'm hoping that all of you have seen slides of flyers circulating with our facilitator, who is in the person of Dr. Sethi. Trust me, we have like a well-versed person in this field, and she is the founder of Empower Kids, a multidisciplinary learning program or initiative for children to achieve, enhance, and empower, as well as optimize their learning. Dr. Sethi has a doctorate in learning disabilities from the University of Delhi. She's a certified SOI systems practitioner under the SOI systems from the USA, particularly Oregon. She also has certification in Brain Gym 101 program for mind and body coordination. She has been working for children. She has been working with children with learning disabilities for about 20 years. Like I mentioned, she's very versed in her field, and her philosophy of engaging children is that she has the belief that everybody has the inherent capacity to be whatever they want, no matter the circumstance. So with that being said, we would be introducing Dr. Sethi very soon. If Mr. Enoch is around, he can address us, and then we have Dr. Sethi address us. Hello, Mr. Enoch, are you around? Okay, great. So that's not a problem. We would have him address us after the program. That's if he's still in the call. But with that being said, I would want to introduce Dr. Sethi to you. Dr. Sethi, these are your participants. Please address us.
Thank you so much, and I am really glad to be here. Thank you so much, Rosalind from Africa Dyslexia Association, and thank you all the volunteers to put all your efforts to give me an opportunity to work with teachers, parents, and educators and researchers in Africa to create awareness about the concept on the topic of learning disabilities, how we can help out the students and their families in identifying the children with learning disabilities, and then how can we provide good quality services to them in the school setup in an inclusive environment. So I'm going to share my screen with you, and I will start my presentation. Okay. And I am going to make it in the slideshow presentation. Okay. So can you all see my slides here? Rosaline, is it visible? Okay. Yeah, thank you. So can I start, Rosaline? Is it okay to start? Can we move? Go ahead. Okay, thank you. So, okay, now and most of our participants are teachers here, Rosaline. Most of the participants are teachers. Oh, you're muted, Rosaline.
And parents.
Okay, okay, thank you. So in our experience of working in the classroom environments, we must have seen some kind of these experienced some children sitting like this and how they are behaving, what they are doing. What do we gauge from this kind of a situation when we see children in our classrooms like this? What do we feel? Okay. And can we try to decipher what is written here? It is just a little bit of preparation, warming up exercise for us. What do we see here? Can anybody read it? Try to read it. I will share the screen. Next slide is with that, what this child is trying to write here. So what patterns do we see here? And I would request that all the participants can keep their questions, note down their questions and put them in the chat and and we will have a question answer session towards the end of our meeting. So yeah, so what patterns do we see here? There is a mixture of reversals of letters, E's, B's, D's, and so many others. So let's try to read it together, what we have here. Yeah, okay, the next slide here is, okay. So the next slide, the next slide here shows that there were many rules in this house that Bobby lived in. One of the big ones was that no one was allowed to play on the computer or printer unless mommy or daddy said it was all right. Bobby loved to use the printer because mommy would make up pictures for him on the computer. He would then print them off and color them on. One of the day when mommy was busy with something else, Bobby decided that he wanted to make some pretty pictures with a printer. He knew that he wasn't supposed to touch it without permission, but he just could not wait. So I will go one slide back. Oops. Okay, so we cannot read it properly here. We see that these kind of errors here, but this is actually this is the passage or the story this boy wanted to write. And this kid can be anywhere from 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th grade, but his writing is like that. So what do we mean? What does this mean? What is this child experiencing here? And I'm going to give a few more examples. What parents and teachers see that they observe and they make some statements like this. These are always prefaced with he or she is smart. Maybe he's just lazy, not working up to his or her potential. She can do it, but when she's interested in. Her reading's not that bad. He doesn't care if it's right. He just wants to finish his work and get it done. Okay. And school just, oops, what is? So my son can understand it if I read to him, but doesn't get it when he's read to. When he reads to himself, he just doesn't pay attention. He doesn't care. He just doesn't pay attention. He reads the things. And the teacher may say that it's a motivation problem. So these are all the issues which can be can be described as these are the early warning signals which can lead to having specific learning disabilities among the children. So how can we identify? And so first of all, we need to understand what are the learning disabilities. So specific learning disabilities are neurodevelopmental disorders. So that means that there is a base in the neurodevelopmental base, means there are challenges with how our brain is processing the information. And these are typically diagnosed in early school age children, although may not be recognized until adulthood. Sometimes, as Rosalind was like some of adults till date don't know they have dyslexia or learning disabilities, but most often these can be diagnosed early on in the elementary grades or the primary school age group. So they are characterized by a persistent impairment in at least one of the three major areas: reading, writing, spelling, and or math. So where does it manifest itself? What types of learning disability? So the learning disability is an umbrella term. So where do we see what kind of learning disabilities we can have? We can see in our students and children. Dyslexia, and which is one of the biggest area of specific learning disability, which is a language and reading disorder, and spelling also. Dysgraphia, problem with the written language expression. Dyscalculia, problems with arithmetic and math concepts. But these are all the verbal language aspects, but there could be some non-verbal learning disabilities also, where children don't interpret the cues like facial expressions or body language, and may have a poor motor coordination skills. So there are some new addition to the field of learning disability is the oral written language disorder, and which is related to the comprehension. Dysphasia. Okay, I'm trying. Okay. So here is small picture, it shows that specific learning disabilities are the umbrella term, which can have dyslexia, dysgraphia, nonverbal learning disabilities, dysphasia, dyspraxia. There are at least 6, 7. So mainly we will be talking about today, we are going to talk tomorrow in details about the characteristics and signs and symptoms of children with learning disabilities in details for dyslexia, dyspraxia, dyscalculia, and dysgraphia. We will be talking more in details tomorrow, but today we are going to have the understanding of the overall what exactly are learning disabilities and the overview. So what are the causes of learning disability? Why do some children have learning disabilities? Okay, I think I may have to go back and give. Okay, so we are going to okay, yeah. What are the basic causes of learning disabilities? Researchers till date do not know exactly what could be the causes for learning disabilities, but we do know that learning disabilities run in families, and there could be a genetic reason that they run in families. People are 4 to 10 times as likely to have a learning disability if they have a parent or a sibling with learning disability. And researchers have found multiple genes that may play a role. There is a genetic base. And some brain imaging studies are also showing the brain differences in how the brain is structured for children with learning disabilities and how the brain functions. And how the brain functioning means how the brain is processing the information being received by the brain through eyes, ears, as well as sense and the movement. So learning disabilities are not a result of low or weak intellectual capacities. It's not true that the kids with learning disabilities have lower intelligence. Kids with learning disabilities are average to above average in their intelligence. Their intellectual capacities can be higher. So what learning disabilities are not? So we spoke about what learning disabilities are, but what learning disabilities are not. So learning disabilities should not be confused with conditions as autism, intellectual disability, deafness, blindness, or behavioral disorders. And we cannot say that the kids do not have the educational opportunities, and they do get the advantage of going to school. Parents are putting in efforts, teachers do put in efforts, as well as kids themselves are putting in their efforts and trying their best to learn. But because inherently their brain, the way their brain is processing the information and the way the cognitive abilities or the foundational abilities in brain is creating a challenge for them to I think somebody is not muted. It is becoming a challenge. Esther, can you request somebody that can we mute some people who are not muted? Okay. So learning disabilities are not related to the vision and hearing issues. So when we say that, they can see properly, they can hear properly. But what happens is the way our visual information, when we see from our eyes, how this information goes to the brain and get processed. And
Anumpa, please, a moment. Okay, I'm so sorry to interrupt you. Please, everyone, can you be on mute? I keep unmuting you, but I keep muting you and you keep unmuting yourself. Please be on mute, with the exception of the trainer. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So, and when we hear, as I was talking, it is not related, learning disabilities are not related to the visual, our hearing and seeing the way we see. We can see properly. The kids have a 20/20 vision. It's not a problem of acuity, but when children find it, when they hear the sounds or see the letter and sound symbols, the images which get into our brain in the language or area or in the vision area of our brain systems, the images get distorted. And how the information from one part of the brain goes to the other part of the brain and how it gets processed in the whole system and how it integrates and gives the command to our hands or to our mouth to read the word as bed as Deb, or saw as was, go as og. So why kids have the difficulties like in the symbols like B and D symbols, reversals, they will have. So what are those are the common signs and symptoms. The kids will be reading in reversals or mirror images. They may write was as saw, God as dog, bed as Deb, while reading as well as writing. So that is why it is called the hidden handicap. These are known as hidden disabilities because on the body we don't see any signs and symptoms of any disability. So that's why parents and teachers sometimes observe our kids are fine, they are smart, they are not lazy, they are just lazy, they are smart. If they want to work and focus on biking, playing a game, play a musical instrument, they can still do it very well. But when it comes to the academics and school learning, they are facing challenges. They are having difficulties. They are making excuses. Why does that happen? Because we are not aware of the way the brains of the children is processing the information. Yeah. So how many children have learning disabilities? How widely is that prevalent? But we don't have any global statistics. I have the statistics with me in US. It affects at least 15 to 20% of children in US. The school, 15 to 20% of school going children have learning disabilities. And the most common out of these learning disabilities is dyslexia. And learning disabilities is the largest of the 13 categories of disabilities covered under the individuals with IDEA is the federal government, US government's law, which is the law which individualize people with international dyslexia. No, this law is about the Individual Differences with Education Act. In 2004, it was launched. We will briefly talk about it in our history of learning disabilities section. So yeah, under this law of special education in US, and there are 13 categories of children with special ed there. And this is one of the learning disabilities is one of the largest categories where kids are getting services in United States. 7 out of 10 students with learning differences spend at least 80% of their time in general education classroom systems. But teachers are not equipped to handle and provide the support. So that's our purpose, why I wanted to include this information here, because the teachers in the inclusive classroom have the biggest role to support the children with learning differences. Because most of the time children are spending the time in the general education mainstream classroom situation. If the teachers are aware and sensitive and have the strategies to support the children in classroom, we don't have to segregate them. We do not have to put them in a separate classroom or separate resource room. And so uh, at least 1 out of 3 children with learning disabilities have repeated a grade without any reason, because sometimes teachers and parents feel, okay, this child is going a little slow. Maybe if we help him repeat a class, he'll get the content. But that's not true. Even if the child is repeating the grade, then also we will say that because we are not addressing the causes why the child is struggling. It is not just the reason that he's going just slow. If we give the content one more time, the child will get it. But we have to change our strategies. So another thing, alarming number of students are dropping out of high schools because of learning disabilities. They are not getting the type of support they need from the school system, even in United States. So what happens when kids don't get the support in school system? They drop out, they don't finish the college, and almost 46% of the working age adults with learning disabilities are unemployed. Okay. So one of the biggest research-based organization is in US is National Council for Learning Disabilities. And they say that the former president and CEO of the NCLD she made a comment. Okay, let me go back there. Okay. And I can see the number of participants is coming more and more here. Okay, children with learning disability issues are as smart as their peers and with the right support can achieve at high levels, but a lack of early or effective interventions lead to many of the kids on a downward spiral. So if we do not give these children the support what they need in the school system, they will always, or they will not achieve their optimal potential. This was a quote from Ms. Mimi Corcoran, who's a former president and CEO of NCLD. Okay. Okay, now let's try to understand how the concept of learning disabilities came into existence. And it's very new to some people in different parts of country, but it has been there for over 100 years. The research has been going on. It started over 100 years in different parts of world, in Europe and in US. So I will just briefly go over, but to the fact that why do we have to understand the history, that I think I need to make an interesting point there, that investigating the history of LD can inform researchers, parents, and teachers how children with learning disabilities have been treated and taught during different periods of time, exploring perspectives and consequences of previous methods of identification and teaching students with LD, providing a stronger foundation to build new thoughts and perspectives. And it's interesting to understand how this field was researched, established, developed, and how much effort and time has gone by the dedicated professionals in this industry. So we can easily divide the research or the history in the field of LD into 3-4 major parts. It started, we can go like early 1800s. Okay. Okay, let me go back here. Yeah, so in the 1800s, learning disability was not at all in the radar, public radar. Scientists and doctors were trying to do some research, and terms like word blindness was used to describe difficulties in reading and interpretation. And German physician Berlin used the term dyslexia as early as in the middle of the 1800s. And so early to mid 1900, the beginning of the special education, the beginning of the special education was due to parent advocacy. Mainly parents were trying to figure out what they want to do and how they want to help their own children. So mid to late 1900s, educators began to experience a new phenomena of increased number of students having difficulty learning in the classroom situations, but they could not pinpoint what the reason were. But these children, they showed their capacities and potentials in other areas, and they thought these kids are fine doing with the average to above average intelligence, but still could not do. This started in the late 1900s. And Dr. Samuel Kirk was the first person to introduce the term learning disability in 1960. So in 1963 in US, Congress okay. I don't know, by default, I was getting muted somehow. Okay, now it's fine. So several laws have been passed in US since 1963. And then in 1975, another law was introduced. So the last law, which was revised in 2004, and this is called Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, IDEA. It was done in revised like it was created in 1990, but the latest revision has been done in the year 2004 in this law. And the biggest thing with the shift, what happened in this law was the word handicap was replaced by the word disability, because handicap has a big connotation of a negative remark as such. So disability was a better term to use, less negative. And recently some discussions have been going on in using the term differences rather than disability also. And as we can understand that learning disability or learning differences, there are no true children who will be showing you the same characteristic signs and symptoms. So it is more like a spectrum. It's not that out of 10 or 15 or 20 symptoms or signs, if these kids, like there will be no two children will have all of them. Some may have less, some may have 5 of them, 7 of them. The other may have different set of 5 or 7 symptoms. And the intensity will also vary. So it can vary from mild to moderate with different characteristics. So we can say that learning differences are also on a spectrum, mild to moderate with different intensities there. So what is the future for us? What we can say that the road ahead, the path ahead of us is that with continuous research in the industry or in the field of learning disabilities and how the brain works, teaching students how to learn and gain metacognitive strategies, means how we can make them vocal about themselves and be their own advocates, how they can learn, and how the brain is processing the information and giving the explicit instruction. We know that early interventions are important and vital to the success of students. So what we can do as educators? And we as educators know that learning the whole child, learn about the whole child, will allow us to acknowledge and use the child's strengths and use a variety of strategies and interventions to strengthen areas of weakness. Addressing the foundational learning abilities. What are those foundational and as abilities, or the cognitive skills, or how the brain is processing the information, is the key to help. Is the key to help help and support the students with specific learning disabilities. So my intention here, my objective here to talk to you all is to be aware that along with learning differences, we need to build the children's cognitive foundational abilities, and learning differences are visible in the classroom environment, classroom situation. So so those are the behaviors, those are the symptoms, but we are and how those behaviors and symptoms are coming out in the classroom situation, because how is that happening? It's a process of like input and output. How are we getting the input? Input is we are receiving from our eyes, ears, hand, movement. We are listening, hearing, and seeing all those things in the classroom environment. The symbols, letters, alphabet, sound, all those things are those visual and auditory symbols which are being shown to us, given to us, thrown at us, we are hearing. But how that get processed in the brain is the challenge. So those abilities in the brain, is that process in the brain is the cognition, and those abilities in the brain, we can call them cognitive skills and abilities. So addressing the foundational learning abilities is the key factor for us to build on, and then raising the tall building of learning. So I can give another example, like if we want to make a multi-story building, housing complex, or a hospital, or a hotel, or a mall, what happens if the foundation is not strong? Whatever good material and resources and strategies we use for creating that tall building, the building is going to go crashing down. It doesn't have the solid base. It doesn't have the solid foundation. So the foundation has to be strong. And in the education part, I won't call it education, I call it the learning process. So learning, for our effective learning, the foundation has to be strong. So that foundation of cognitive abilities is very, very important. And I will briefly touch on the cognitive stories, the skills and abilities. So why what are these cognitive skills and why are these important? So, and in our school systems, so just a little background there. When the children are entering the formal school system, the teachers and the admin staff expects the children to have those basic skills, and they should be ready to learn. And so when these kids do not have those abilities, and if we start teaching the straight away concepts of A, B, C, D sounding, 1, 2, 3, 4 counting, without putting any emphasis on the essential cognitive skills, there will be that we are already starting with a gap there, and that gap will keep on increasing. So that is where the importance of working on cognitive skills lies. So cognitive skills are the core skills which our brain is using to think, read, learn, remember, reason, and paying attention. So what are those learning the abilities? These are the abilities, the way our brain is using its capacities to think, read, learn, remember, reason, and pay attention. Working together, all these abilities, they take incoming information and move it into the bank of knowledge, memory you use every day at school, at work, and in life. And these cognitive abilities help us to process new information by taking and distributing it into appropriate areas of brain. Receiving, go to the different, this information goes in different parts of our brain. Then all these abilities process, interact with each other, create new neural pathways and neurons. Then it is coming out as an output. So these are the foundational abilities for us. So I will talk briefly about what are the core cognitive skills in our, what humans are using. Perception, visual perception and auditory perception. Attention, there are three types of attention: focused attention, sustained attention, and divided attention. Memory again has a lot of parts. The basic three important are short-term memory, working memory, and long-term memory. Then again, visual and auditory memory are related to visual processing and perception. Also, logical reasoning, deductive reasoning, and deductive and inductive reasoning. So let me go on to the next part. So briefly talking about what these core abilities are. So long-term memory, what it does, it enables us to recall information stored in the past. If children have if the children have problems with long-term memory or this memory is weak, kids at times will forget the names, doing poorly on tests, forgetting the things which have already been remembered. Because sometimes we see that he remembered it till yesterday, but for the exam, he doesn't remember it. Once they will remember it, they'll put it in the long-term memory, but they can't recall it when it is needed for any exam. Or if we are using the same information for, okay, I remembered it till a few weeks back, but now I forgot about it. So working memory, what exactly is working memory? This working memory enables us to hang on to the information while in the process of using it. As we are looking at this, a practical example here I can share is that as we are looking at the screen and listening to me, as in a few seconds, once the slide goes out, how much can we remember from there? And when we are doing the multitasking, this working memory is very useful. And when the information, any visual or auditory information doesn't stay in our working memory for more than 7 to 9 seconds. And that's the beauty and of our brain structure and the function, that how the information, what we receive through sensory channels, get transferred to working memory, how it goes to short-term memory, and how it gets transferred to the long-term memory. That is such a complex and complicated process. And that's how the mechanics, what we have to understand and help our students to improve on their learning styles and learning differences. And if the children have weak, okay, let me go back. Yeah, so if our students have weak working memory, they may have challenges reading the directions again in the middle of project. They may have challenges in following the multi-step directions, and they may have challenges in what was said in the conversation. Oh, what did you say just a few minutes back or a few seconds back? Okay, now we go on to our next cognitive skill, logic and reasoning. This helps us to reason, form ideas, and solve problems. If our problem solving things and the critical thinking skills are not well developed, or there is a challenge, the students might ask you the questions like, what do I do next? I didn't get it. And okay, this is so hard. I need help. What should I do first? Sequencing part is coming in the picture, and problem solving. So they are lost with a given situation. How do they do it? what is the process of this problem solving. And it is a very big piece of the math. So they might be good in operations, addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. But when it comes to the problem solving part in math, they cannot apply these operations to the problem solving part. Again, when we talk about math problem solving, it's again a complicated part. We will talk more about it. And okay. Yeah, so now we go on to the processing skills. So there are two major components in processing skills: auditory processing through what we are hearing, the ability to analyze, blend, and segment the sounds. A typical example for the auditory processing issue will be, I can share that, there will be that when the kids have to blend the individual sounds to make a complete word. If I say g, so what does the sound make? Log. They can't blend it together. Or if I ask a student to segment the word in a sound, for example, if the word is dog or bed, can you segment the sound? What is the initial sound? B. What's the middle sound? Eh. What's the ending sound? D. So they cannot break up the sounds, segment the sounds in a word or in single syllable or multisyllabic word. So these are the challenges when the kids cannot, when the kids have challenges with auditory processing skills. So weakness in these areas will hinder the reading, fluency, and comprehension. If the reading is not fluent, their comprehension skill will be hampered because so much effort is going on the mechanics of reading. So much emphasis is going on the decoding part. So that is a big auditory piece. So visual processing, how the information is perceived by our eyes, analyzed and thinking in the visual images. So is the part of visual processing skills. This include visualization, which is the ability to create a picture in your mind of word and concepts as such. Students who have problems with visual processing may have difficulty following instructions, reading map, doing word math problems, and comprehending. Some more information, some more challenges here could be when we were talking the visual, why do some kids have challenges with perceiving B as D or D as B? So when they see, it's again, I can correlate here. There is no challenge with looking at how the B, they can see those written letters clearly, B, but still their brain is reading it as the letter D. Or when they are spelling, writing, if I say them, then there is a difference in visual and the auditory. When they see the sound, see the letter, when they see the letter, the B can appear D to them, or P can appear Q to them, or W can appear M. But the difference with the auditory processing is when I say the word was, then they're hearing it was, but if they're writing it saw, there is a connection between auditory processing and visual processing. So all these abilities are interconnected. Nothing is working in isolation. And that's why we can say that all the children are unique with their learning styles and learning differences. Okay, so now we come on to the processing speed. So those are the two different parts, auditory and visual processing. But how is the speed? The ability to perform simple or the cognitive or the complex cognitive task quickly. How much time do we take to process the information? So the challenges what our students would be facing in the classroom situation, if the teacher is talking at a normal pace, but for those kids, some of the kids who are struggling, the teacher is talking too fast. They have not processed the information in time and make a meaning and get the gist of what she's saying. And if the teacher says 4 or 5 things, the child may get, okay, she said 1 or 2 things. So rest of it has all gone away. He does or she doesn't remember what the teacher said. Or if the teacher has written something on the board and she asks the students to copy it in their notebook or write down the homework, or if they're working on a worksheet, that process, the visual processing speed is slow. The speed is slow. How is that getting processed by the brain? So again, a big challenge of the processing speed. And then whatever, like this may, or symptoms of weaknesses in processing speed can lead to too much time spent on the homework, and always the last one to get out of the classroom because they are taking too much time to process the information in class, what's happening around, watching so many things, and how, what to do. Sometimes the kids have challenge in what am I supposed to do? Task initiation is also a part of it. Okay, now the last one is attention here. What it does, sustained attention enables us to stay focused on a task for a sustained period of time. Selective attention enables us to stay focused on a task despite distractions and distractions in the class, and divided attention enables us to remember information while doing two things at once. So this is quite self-explanatory. Sustained attention, it helps us to stay focused on a task, that we have to complete this task. Selective attention, like even if we are having some distractions in the classroom, I need to finish this assignment and then go for lunch, or let me finish this work and then play or talk to the other student. Divided attention helps us to remember. If we are doing two things in the assignment, okay, I have to look at the word in the basket, then put them in two columns. Then, yeah, so our attention is divided. We have to look at the words and then put them into two different columns there. And if there are challenges with attention span, there will be a lot of unfinished projects. They want to go from one task to the other very quickly. They get easily distracted, difficulty multitasking, and frequent mistakes. Common, the way we call that, common careless mistakes, because they're not paying attention to what they're reading or to what they're writing. Okay, now some of the famous, it's not that like there are so many famous personalities with learning disabilities, like Steven Spielberg, the filmmaker, Whoopi Goldberg, actress, Agatha Christie, the author, Daniel Radcliffe, the actor, Harry Potter, Michael Phelps, Winston Churchill, Pablo Picasso, Justin Timberlake, actor, Adam Levine, and all these people have dyslexia, and Tom Cruise, Richard Branson, Cher, all these people have experienced dyslexia in their lifetime, but they are still successful. And the gist is, the fundamental is that the kids have to get all the help and support. They are creative, they are multi-talented. We as parents and teachers have to pay attention and give them the right kind of support. And so, yeah, I am coming towards the end of my presentation. And now these are some of the references for the international organization, mainly in US, UK, and Singapore. And there are two organizations from Africa which I've listed, and I'm still doing my research to find more, and I will get to know more about resources in Africa about learning disabilities from this wonderful team of participants and volunteers from Africa Dyslexia Organization. So it will be a great opportunity for me to learn from you and provide the support from all the people who are working. And thank you all for attending this session. You have already taken the first step to understand and learn about the learning disabilities. Thank you so much.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Dr. Sethi. This session was very, very, very resourceful. I learned a lot, and particularly about the kinds of attention. I I have not come across that. I didn't know there were kinds of attention. But thank you for sharing, and I got to know of selective attention. That's very interesting. And we have a few questions in the chat box.
Do we have enough time? Was I on time?
Oh yes, you finished, I think, 30 minutes earlier. So
so I think that gives us very good time for the interaction now.
Yeah, exactly. It does. It does. It gives us time to
should I stop sharing my screen?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I think I went on too fast. So how are we going to take the questions now?
So Erixa, you be leading the questioning sections.
Yeah.
If we have some in the chat, you
chat
can
box.
read
Exactly.
it out. And then if we have some hands up, I think we have time that you can allow 1 or 2 people to say something.
Okay, great. So guys, it's time for the interactive space. We have enough time to engage with Dr. Sethi. MFR says that since learning disabilities are on a spectrum, when there's an association between learning disability like dyslexia and autism or Asperger's, how can a teacher differentiate and approach such a case? And who is the best person to diagnose hidden disability? So her question is in twofold. Dr. Sethi,
yeah.
can you address that?
Yeah, so the first thing is that our role, we have to understand our role. We as teachers, classroom teachers, have to see the warning signals. And it's a very valid question that there's times could be an overlap of children with autism and learning disabilities and dyslexia. So so there is an overlap and it's a spectrum, rightly understood that it's a spectrum. So and in the due process of this whole training program, we will be sharing some screening tools with you and guiding you how to use those tools in a classroom situation. And we cannot jump on to the conclusion that these children are having some learning disabilities or dyslexia. Our role is to screen them and refer them for a formal diagnosis and branding. I don't believe in branding, but for the sake of understanding the topic more or the issue more, we have to get a formal assessment done. The people who can do a formal assessment have to be a developmental pediatrician or a neuropsychologist or a developmental educational development person. So who are authorized to give these assessments like Woodcock-Johnson, Wechsler's intelligence scale, or some more formal assessment like Kaufman battery or Wechsler's intelligence scales, Woodcock-Johnson battery. We have to find out who these people and referral agencies in Africa are, and then get a formal diagnosis in your local community. But a formal assessment and diagnosis can take well over 4 to 5 months time. That doesn't mean that we will not stop giving any guidance or working with these children. So till the time that formal evaluation is happening, we as teachers in a regular inclusive classroom environment have to provide that kind of support. We can create a lot of training programs for the regular classroom teachers, special ed teachers, or the teachers who want to learn more exclusively about the children with dyslexia and other learning disabilities. But if we can surely adapt our strategies and modify our classroom environment to give some support to the children in the meantime, till this child is getting a formal diagnosis done, then the future course of action can be decided whether this child needs a support in a pulled out resource room or outside the school or within the classroom environment. That we can decide. So I hope this answers your question.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Sethi. I think another person asked the same question. It's also in the same area. She was asking, how can a teacher handle a child with a learning problem? I think you addressed that.
Yeah, so depending where the teacher is, how big the group is, we have to be sensitive and screen the children. And then if we feel that this child needs a further evaluation, further assessment, referring this child for further evaluation. And I'll add one more point here, that whenever we are we seeing these these signs and symptoms, we have to be very cautious and not jump to the conclusion that this kid may have learning disability or dyslexia. These signs and symptoms have to be consistently presenting over a period of time before we can conclude that, okay, this child may need some extra help. Yes, of course, most of the children will need that help, but we cannot jump on conclusion by referring a child to for a formal assessment. We have to take parents observation, and we have to keep the parents observation in mind and interact with them and talk to other teachers if they are also finding the similar observation of their behavior for this particular child in classroom, and observe over a period of time in different settings, classroom, playground, and home. Then only we can say that, yes, this child may be showing some signs of learning differences. Let's get him evaluated.
Okay, thank you. I think I will take 2 questions or 3 questions, and then you can address all at once, and then we move to the next batch so that we can take as many questions as possible. Okay, so someone is asking, that's Festus. Festus is asking, can reading of books or something, but not able to digest or say anything about what you just read. So I think he's trying to ask if you can read books, but yet you're not able to process what exactly you are reading. Can it fall under the spectrum of dyslexia? Another person is asking that no matter what we do, I think it's expressing frustration. That's Felix. He's saying that no matter what we do, such children with LD see themselves as not part of those with easy learning, no matter the inspiration. In such case, what do you do as a facilitator? And I'll take the first question. That would be the third question for this round. She's asking, how does culture impact the understanding of learning disabilities, especially since there have been debates on how intelligence or academic performance is assessed?
I did not catch the question number 2. Can you say that one more time? No matter what we do, such children with LD.
Okay. Okay, yeah. So he is saying that no matter what we do, children with LD do not see themselves as not part of those with easy learning, no matter the inspiration. So in such a case, what should you do as a facilitator?
Okay. So let me begin with the first question. That was about the child may be reading fine, but not comprehending or processing what they are reading. So there are 2-3 steps in 2-3 aspects to that we don't see at the face of it. The child may be putting too much stress or making too much of effort in decoding or the mechanics of reading. So much emphasis is going in that. But as a result of that, the child cannot comprehend. We can try this is called the reading comprehension. But on the other side, if the teacher reads that same passage or a story to him or her, the comprehension might be better because the child is listening and paying attention to what the teacher is saying for that story. The child may comprehend better. But if the child is reading by himself or herself, because of the processing issues and reading difficulties, the too much effort is going on for the mechanics or blending of the sounds, so in that effort to read better, the comprehension part takes a toll. So how do we address this part? There are twofold. Then we can help the child to decode the words fluently, give him practice or her in practice in building his fluency while reading. And on the other side, two-way approach. So one side, we are helping the child to read and build his fluency. On the other hand, if our objective is to evaluate and understand if the child is comprehending, we can evaluate his comprehension by giving him the listening experience of the same thing. We can ask the child to listen to the stories and passages and then answer the questions in the classroom. This can be the approach. And as far as the second question, no matter what we do, such children are not motivated and they compare themselves. So there comes the piece of the socio-emotional well-being. How well do we integrate these children in the social environment, in the classroom environment? For that could be some activities and games, or a mindfulness curriculum, or socio-emotional well-being curriculum, or some pieces of that, if we can incorporate that in our classroom teaching, so that the other children are accepting and playing together with these children, so that they feel motivated. And another technique or the strategy could be, if we encourage these kids for their effort, small efforts what they're making, by giving them rewards and praising them in their effort, and not penalizing them, or not punishing them for their not reading well. And if we create some system of rewarding system, coming up with some socio-emotional curriculum, mindful activities in the classroom for all the children, and not scolding these children in front of the other children, inclusive games, socio-emotional well-being, mindfulness, all these activities will help them for the motivation part. And what was the third question, Esther? Can you say one more time in this category? I hope that addresses my second question, if you get it right.
Okay, so yeah, the third question is asking about culture, and she's asking that how does culture impact the understanding of learning disabilities, especially since there have been debates on how intelligence or academic performance is assessed.
Yeah, so when we talk about the culture, intelligence, intellectual capacities are the same wherever we are. The intellectual and the culture may impact the styles, may impact a little bit, but and I have to understand that piece, that what is the language of teaching in schools there, and what languages are we teaching them, English as well as their local languages. In Ghana and other areas, are the kids learning their local languages also?
Yeah, so it's English is the official language, but there are classes for
yeah, but the kids may be communicating
the
with
local
their
languages as well, but that's
yeah.
not the primary.
Who was saying that? I heard somebody talking in between, so I wanted to hear their comment.
That's actually me, Esther. I was just contributing, but yeah.
Yeah. So culture does make an impact. So we have to keep all those things in mind, and teaching the children in the culturally familiar strategies, and they're using the resources which are culturally familiar to them. So here comes the challenge of, this is a very valid point, where we can make a distinction between learning disabilities and learning difficulties. If we are teaching the children culturally and socially inappropriate strategies. For example, I can give my example. I lived in India for a long period of time. Now I am in US, and I was working in India also with children with learning differences. And some of our some of the psychologists and some of the tests which were available in India were using, or the teaching material which was available was directly being used from UK or US. So some of the things which are prevalent, or the fruits and vegetables, the way they are addressed in English or in the UK or in US, were not our kids, and we were not familiar with those terms. So we had to modify and adapt. For example, Halloween is not celebrated in India, but Halloween is very common in US. So we had to take out those parts from our teaching strategies to make it fair, not equal, but we have to make it fair for the kids for generally for everybody. So we cannot say that it's the learning disability. So then we have to adapt it and differentiate it from learning difficulty. If we are teaching the children in a culturally and socially inappropriate way, which is not good for them, so it will not be a learning disability, it will become a learning difficulty for them. And if we change that, if we adapt the curriculum, not the curriculum, but if we adapt the strategies and the resources and the teaching material according to our culture, then it will be fair enough to make a point that if the children are still showing some signs of learning difference or these issues with dyslexia. Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Sethi. We have more questions. Abigail is asking if there are different types of dyslexia.
Mm-hmm.
And Faith is also asking this question, more like a statement, but I'll read it out. Yeah. She's saying that a child shows signs of dyslexia in grade 1,
mm-hmm.
partially keeps up in grade 2 and 3, and then drops in academic again. Is that child still dyslexic? So I think she's talking about the progression of the child's performance.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And the last question, and how do you talk to a parent about a child suspected to have a learning disability? This is from Henrietta.
Okay, how do we talk to the parents? Okay. So the first question was about if there are different types of dyslexia. Yes, there are different types of dyslexia, and it could be because of the visual reasons, visual dyslexia. It could be if the child is having auditory problem, it could be auditory, phonemic or the phonic kind of a dyslexia. There is a mixed type. There are 3-4 types of dyslexia, but all related to reading and writing and spelling aspect. So yes, there are, but as teachers, regular classroom teachers, we don't have to worry about that part right now. But of course, when the person who is professionally doing an assessment with our students, they will come to know. But of late, in my experience, in the recent trends, we haven't seen anybody giving a diagnosis of one particular type of dyslexia. We sometimes see that the people are making diagnosis of language-based learning disability, because again, there is a base of language communication. So language-based learning disability, or some people will say dyslexia. There are, of course, different type of dyslexia, but it's not very widely used terminology in the science of reading. So when the question number 2 was the child was showing, if the child is showing the early warning signals in grade 1, then again in 2, so yes, and yes, if the child, that again is a typically case of progression of if we have missed out those signs and symptoms at an early age of grade 1, this child should have been addressed or picked up in grade 1 itself for early warning signals. Even if we cannot do the formal assessment as for the children as young as grade 1, we can start giving some interventions early on in grade 1 itself, so that we have the help for them, so that the gap is not increasing. And when it is time for us to talk to the children or to the families that this child needs further assessment, we can do that. So yes, the gap can keep on increasing from grade 1 up to grade 3, and we should not technically be waiting for that time to come where we have to wait for the assessment for our interventions to begin. So if we see some of those signals, we can start working with the children as young as in grade 1 also. And how do we talk to the parents about it? That's the biggest challenge we face as professionals when we see the children who are struggling in our classroom environments. How do we talk to the parents? We ourselves, most of us are parents also. So when it comes to talking to parents, we have to tell them subtly that I and we all know that acceptance from the parents aspect for the child having a disability or some special needs is going to be a big challenge. So we have to talk to, and that's why I mentioned earlier that we cannot be jumping on the conclusions very quickly unless we are sure ourselves. We cannot talk to the parents. So we have to collect all the data from the teachers over a period of time, and backed by the data and by the children's work, we can have a meeting one-on-one with parents, show them this work and ask them, are you also seeing some kind of this similar behavior or similar pattern of working at home? This is what I have been observing, and this is my concern. And I hope you will not mind sharing this information. And if we can get this thing, let's wait for some time and get it evaluated if there is a need. And we have to talk to them in a very, very uh, gentle way so that it does not upset parents. Of course, will get upset about it, but we have to back it up with the data, and with we have to keep the example and the sample of their work and share that work with children. And before we have a meeting with parents to talk about it, we can keep on sending the sample work and at home also, maybe not the actual work, but the scanned copies or the photocopy, and keeping some sample with yourself so that parents can also observe and see, and then we can have a meeting. Are you also observing the similar kind of situations at home with your child? These are my observations. This is what I'm watching. So yeah, I hope this helps.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Sethi. Melissa is asking, how can we improve the working memory? Yomi is also asking, I think Yomi, this has been addressed. Yeah, there are subcategories of dyslexia, more like types of dyslexia. Abigail is asking, please, can I grow out of dyslexia? If yes, how? And the last question, how do you handle a student in grade 4 with dyslexia
Okay.
when you try with bending of sound, model reading, and others?
Okay.
Should I take that again?
Yeah, say that. So first one was, how do we improve the working
Working
memory?
memory, yeah.
Uh-huh.
How do I grow out of dyslexia?
Okay.
And how do you handle a student in grade 4 with dyslexia when you try with bending of sound, model reading, and others?
Okay. So these are very, very specific questions. I will begin with can I outgrow out of this dyslexia? No. It is a lifelong condition, but we can help people to cope up with dyslexia and other learning disabilities. So this is a situation where I can compare that a person um, with difference in height, a very short person and a very tall person playing basketball or having a struggle going on. So how do we help these two people to make it fair? We can provide some support to the child with a shorter height to cope up with that part and give him some support in his shoes so that he or she becomes taller. So has the child become taller? No. But what have we done to give him a fair opportunity? We have given him an opportunity, or her an opportunity, in by giving some physical support so that he reaches the same level of looking at the building across the wall of a school as such. Or for example, creating the ramps, the physical ramps, what we make for the people with physical challenges to reach a building or go on a go to any place, accessibility. So same way for the children with learning disabilities and dyslexia, we have to come up with some solutions in our teaching strategies, in our environment, so that they are fair. That brings our students to at the same level where the other children are working. So we will not get away there. We cannot outgrow dyslexia or learning disability, but we have to provide the strategies and program and approaches of teaching so that they improve and have a fair opportunity to work within the inclusive classrooms. Now, how do we improve the working memory? There are different ways of approaching. Working memory is a big area of research these days. It's a new aspect as compared to the long-term memory and short-term memory have been there. But just to put it in a simple aspect, there are some games to play for working memory of, for example, let me show you. I have some coins in front of me. I can share my screen. Okay, I can. Okay, it's not, no, my camera is not connected. Let me try to connect my other camera and show a couple of things here. I hope it works. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. Let me see if it's working. No. Okay, I can use some of these coins, small coins, any counters, or starting with 2 or 3 objects, showing them what do you see in my hand. Okay, so I will keep on talking to the child or the person, and then I can show. Do you remember what I showed you just a few seconds back? This is just one example. How many of the coins I was showing you? How many beads of this kind I can show you? Like if I break up these coins in 2 or 3 parts and then show the child these things. Okay, how many do you see in my hand? Or 1, 2, and 3. Okay, take it away and keep on talking, doing. How many beads did I show you? 3. What did I tell you? What color was the beads? Was it green, red, yellow? But there are some activities and strategies and professional games and programs available to improve the working memory in the classroom situation. Some where the kids are involved, like asking them the questions about their daily routines, from what happened, what did you eat for your breakfast? Okay, if they don't remember, we can ask, okay, note it down, write it down when you're eating the breakfast, or take a picture of it. I'm going to ask you, mentally preparing the children, that what are you going to ask them tomorrow when they come to school? I'm going to ask you about your daily routine. Then if the children have some serious issues in working memory, we can give them visual cues, what they were doing, or the auditory cues. So if we make some charts of pointers and the steps, along with the description in the auditory format, audio instruction, if we give them the instructions, show them the instructions written or in the form of pictures. Again, if we give them in written format, they may find it difficult to read and read those instructions. So giving them visual cues in terms of in the form of pictures, cues, and keep them close on their desk or on the whiteboard, that will be helpful. These are some very few common examples of working memory training. But given a chance, I can do a 2-day training program on improving working memory strategies and how do we evaluate that part. Basic things. I have given a few ideas. So, and the third question in this component was, how do we help a child in grade 4 with dyslexia to blend the sounds? So for blending the sounds, there are tons and tons of phonemic awareness exercises, what we can use. And that again becomes a part of our Orton-Gillingham multisensory teaching and the literacy classes going on these days. There are a variety of activities. I'm going to create a couple of those things. Maybe I sometimes use these kind of cards or the phonogram cards. I am going to write things like, for example, on one part, if I write like this, and then I can break it into this part. Okay, then doing So I can ask them, okay, starting with 3-letter sounds, or if it's still difficult, I can start with just 2-letter sounds. A, t. Saying this sound, a, t. Now blend it, at. Now I can add one more sound, b, a, t, bat. Then I can ask, okay, now replace this b with k, at, cat. So again, cat. Now, if I replace this k with hat. Now, if I replace this h with at, rat. Now, if I replace it with sat. So enough practice in blending. Then now, if I show them the word, say the word sat. Sat. The child will repeat the word sat. If then I'll ask him, okay, if I replace the sound of t with p, what does this become? Sap. Now, if I replace this word, the sound p, with g, what does this become? Sag. So practice in the initial sound and the end sound is the easiest thing to do. The most difficult part is to be using the vowel sound. That's very difficult. So this is just one activity. There are at least tons and tons of activities what we do with on phonemic awareness, blending, segmenting, rhyming, onset and rhyme activities. So there are a variety of things, and I can have 2 days program on phonemic awareness activities, blending and segmenting activities. So we will touch upon briefly on these exercises during the whole course of up to July. And if we need to do more detailed orientation programs and workshops in each of these categories, we can call experts to work on these and maybe have OG professional level certifications also.
Okay, thank you. We can take a few rounds. So Yunari is asking, what are the signs that a student has dyslexia? I think you addressed that, but you can address that again. And Rosman is asking, what method of teaching can you use for a child with dyslexia? You just addressed that.
Okay. So
Isaac is saying that since we don't have training centers to train our teachers on these learning disabilities, are we not doing more harm than good with this training?
Say that one more time, Esther. If we don't have the training for what was, so first question you mentioned, what are the signs of dyslexia and LD, and methodology? What methodology do we use for teaching the kids with the dyslexia? Okay. So should I talk about that one? And the third one was?
Since we don't have training centers to train our centers, since we do not have training centers to train our teachers on these learning disabilities, are we not doing more harm than good with this training? I think his question is based on the availability of resources to train teachers in this area.
Okay, so addressing briefly, going to the 2 questions first, signs of dyslexia. So we are this was today's session was just awareness generation on learning disabilities, what learning disabilities are, what are the different types of learning disabilities, and we will go more in the details of each of these types of dyslexia and understand more of the signs and symptoms tomorrow. And the other comorbid conditions, we are going more in details. And about the methodology of teaching the children with dyslexia, there is no one standardized methodology. There are different commercial programs available based on Orton-Gillingham, a multisensory approach of teaching. There is an approach. How can we teach the children with dyslexia? But there is no one single program or curriculum which will benefit children with dyslexia. So if we have trained teachers of course, the third question is a very, very wide and a valid question. Of course, and that's the first step. That is why we are here for. Africa Dyslexia Organization is making all the efforts in your area to create the awareness about and sensitivity of about the concept of learning disabilities and dyslexia among the community of parents and teachers. That's the first step. If we have the awareness, and everything cannot be done at the same time, it's going to take some time to have resources. First step, if we have taken that the teachers are aware, teachers can screen simultaneously. Lady Rosalind is taking so much time and energy and effort without any financial support and any other support. There is a big team of volunteers with her now. We are all putting on our efforts to create this awareness, and simultaneously, depending on the need, what is the need, we will be providing those areas and creating those resources for the teachers to get training. And today's, I don't know how many are people are participating in this whole session today, but even if we generate 20 odd teachers who want to get specialized training for this program, or if the teachers are aware, we will feel that we have done our job right, that we are creating awareness. If the teachers are aware, they have to be sensitive more than any other formal training or in the program or the approach. The sensitivity of the teachers in the inclusive classroom is of the great importance for students in a regular classroom to get that help. Academic learning will come. Before that, we need to be empathetic towards the needs of children in our classroom. I hope Rosalind, I'm saying it correctly, and if you can jump in to answer this question a little bit in details with me.
Absolutely, you did answer it correctly. This is the reason why, if I have to restate what you just said, is the reason why we organizing this training. It is the first step. Something has to start. And so if the resources and the trainings are not available, why don't you as an educator take it as a responsibility that now you know that students in your classrooms or parents, some of your kids can actually be experiencing learning difficulties. Therefore, take it as a responsibility and train yourself, train your mind. And just, these are some example, just showing up and taking this training from March to only 2 days, 2 hours each day, twice in a month, March to July, and get the needed information and the training that you need to make, like, to get yourself comfortable. We are not saying that any one of you or all of you should be special educators. That is not what we're saying. But what we are saying is that at least get the knowledge, be well informed so that you can identify those children in your classroom and be at least kind to them. I feel like what I went through was because people were not informed about learning difficulties. And that's why my teacher can just beat me up mercilessly the many times I am wrong with my academic performance. So your question is really valid, but that is why we are also here. We are not the only organization in Ghana or Africa trying to bring awareness on this. There are so many of them here in Ghana. And so embrace every opportunity that comes your way. And like she said, if by the end of July, we have only 20, 30 students who will take from March to July, you will benefit a lot. And then there will be certified programs that will come later on that you can participate in it as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Lady Rosa. So I think we'll take one last round of questions and then we can conclude here. So Yomi is saying that still on the subcategories, I think he's adding clarification. He says that, can there be subcategories of dyslexia, such like reduced functions of essential cognitive skills? I am asking because some parents will not agree that their children have full-blown dyslexia, but they will say the children have been diagnosed with reduced function of essential cognitive skills, resulting in the child being unable to visually process small words or sentences, getting easily distracted, taking too long to answer questions in a written assignment, but can answer these questions verbally.
So I am getting a little confused with this question. So the children, so what I am inferring from this question is that for parents, it might be a challenge to, or a challenge in accepting the broad term of dyslexia or learning disabilities, but it might be easily acceptable if we say that the child is getting distracted or cognitively having some issues. So that's a matter, logistic, I think, in my opinion. We can still not go into the details of psychoeducational or the neuropsych report. The diagnostician or the doctor or the psychologist can give whatever report they have to give, but it is our own, it depends on us how we interpret that result. And without going into the detailed jargon of the report, if we can interpret and make it easier for them to understand the report and give a conclusive recommendation. Okay, this is what the doctor is saying, this is what the report says, but this is only for the school logistic admin purposes. We are going to work with the students on these issues and address those. So those are just the documents which are staying on the school records or for the school purposes, not for practical reasons of teaching and working with children. So if we have that understanding with the teachers and the professionals who are doing assessments, we can come up with these kind of criterias and the management aspect. Of course, we can come up with those kind of things. Yes. Reducing the complexities of the branding. Yes. So what is the next question, Esther?
Hello?
Yes.
Hello?
What?
Yes.
Yeah.
Hello? Yes. Sorry for the feedback. Okay, so the last question we are having, okay, so Julie is asking, how can we handle a child with dyslexia who wouldn't like to sit in class? And Sarah is also asking, can a child have two neuro disorders such as dyslexia and autism? And Isaac is also asking, can phonics awareness solve the problem of dyslexia and how?
Okay, so let me add on before this. So we know that learning disability, the dyslexia is the biggest part of the learning disabilities, but it is not the only piece of learning disabilities. There are other areas in dyslexia and there are comorbid conditions. The other areas of learning disabilities are dyscalculia, where the kids are affected in math, the child learning math, and then writing, reading as well as spelling, dysgraphia, written part, handwriting part. And there are some comorbid conditions of dyslexia, like attention deficit disorder with or without hyperactivity, executive functioning areas. Some overlapping problems could be from visual processing skills. We have covered that. Some of the kids with autism may also have learning disabilities. So it's what I explained earlier, that it's a spectrum, not one part. So to address the issue of a child who is not sitting in the classroom, there has to be a reason why the child is not sitting in the classroom. If the child runs away or is not not sitting at a place for a long period of time, because the basic approach what we use at times, that if we have to go to the child and we have to meet a child where he is in the process of teaching and getting our message across to the child, So we can't be scolding a child or asking the child, can you please sit straight? Or can you please not disturb me? If the child could do that, he or she would do that, because there is something wrong in the processing part or in his the brain, in the brain part. It is difficult for the child. Even if he wants to do that, he cannot do that. So how do we deal with that? Can we make some arrangements for this child to sit on some wobbly stool kind of a thing, or a sense? If we have to identify why is that happening, if the child has some sensorial issues, if the child has ADHD, is the child having some difficulty, if the child has some other challenges going on, if the child is being emotionally in control, if the child has some challenges with his seat there where he's sitting, can we make those changes in the classroom? Can we ask him to stand and work with us? Does it affect us? Does it affect me if I'm teaching in a class with 15 children, 20 children, or 30 children? If one child can stand and talk to me, does that make a difference to me? Maybe not. So if I can ask the child to sit and come closer to me, and maybe I can keep a stool, which is these days there are some tools and stools and seating arrangements available which keeps on wobbling. The child is sitting on that chair, and the chair has some mechanism by which it gives that sensory input to the child and gives that feeling of relaxation. And there are ways to do that. So practically there are different ways to approach this issue. We have to find out why the child is showing that kind of a behavior. Behavior anyways is a symptom, and it is not the cause. That is something going on. For example, if we have a cold and cough, what do we do if we have a cold and cough or a fever? So we will go to the doctor and find out, so what is causing the cold and fever? And maybe there is a viral infection or a bacterial infection or something else in our body going on. Similarly, if the child is showing a behavior of not focusing at one place, there is something in his mind and body going on. It could be sensorial issue, it could be ADHD, it could be autism, it could be some other thing, and it's getting compounded with learning differences. So we need to find out those reasons and then attend to it by making some physical arrangements in the classroom, and simultaneously work on his cognitive or skills or the learning abilities or the academic learning. So as I described, the second question was, is phonics the only way of teaching dyslexics? No, there are different. When we are teaching the children about reading part, phonics is just one aspect. The whole concept of the science of reading and literacy aspect incorporates teaching um, uh, uh, through different approaches. Like the approach is multisensory, but we address this vocabulary aspect, spelling aspect, decoding skills, encoding skills. Phonics comes as a very small piece, but all the children with learning differences do not have dyslexia. There can be some children who need help in math areas. So the child who is struggling in math will need multisensory approaches to teach the basic numeracy or the operations or the problem solving skills, times tables. So phonics is a small piece of addressing the issues of learning disabilities, which as like from the science of it, dyslexia is the biggest piece of learning differences, but it is not the only part of it. Okay. I hope this answers the questions and concerns.
Melissa, are you here?
Esther?
Esther, are you here? Okay, she said I should unmute her. Where is Esther?
Okay, sorry about that. I couldn't unmute myself. Okay, so thank you so much. The questions have been very engaging. I must say that this has been a very insightful space. And we have a short video, so we are going to continue watching the video that we started at the beginning. But before that, I just want to thank Dr. Sethi for her time and giving us all of this information for today. So tomorrow at the same time, 6:30 prompt, we'll be here. And then for those who didn't have their questions answered, you can engage Dr. Sethi tomorrow as well. So do not be dismayed that your questions hasn't been addressed. So we are going to watch the short video, and then right afterwards, we would take a group picture. So everyone will turn on their mic, their videos, and we take a group picture for today's training. So tomorrow, remember, 6:30 prompt, you must be here. Please invite your friends as well. For those who have registered and not here, please spread the word, because we had 600 people registering and we have about 100. So please spread the word as well. So Lady Rosa, I'll share the video.
Very good state at all. Not a very good state of affairs, Mrs. Jones. Not a very good state at all.
There must be something you can do.
We can do. I was rather hoping you might have done something to help. You clearly don't read to your son.
But I do read to him. Every night. I have done for years.
Well, he's clearly not listening.
But his vocabulary is amazing. He's bright.
His classwork tells us otherwise.
No excuses for being lazy, Jones.
I'm not lazy, miss.
And maybe you're just stupid.
You do not spell finger T-H-I-N-G-R. Even a 3-year-old could spell better than you. I tried to remember the words, miss. Well, clearly your brain stopped working.
That's not all, Mrs. Jones. Your son is disruptive, violent.
But he's constantly being bullied.
You boy. It's so stupid, but he can't even spell his own name. Yeah, Michael. Spelled M-I-C-A-L. Should change name to S-T-U-P-I-D. Stupid, 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 stupid.
Your son is out of control. I suggest you find another school, Mrs. Jones.
Stop playing with your food and eat your breakfast.
So, how's the new school?
Made any new friends? Or were the teachers nice? Did they teach you anything in school apart from how to shrug?
I don't want to go to school.
You've got to go.
I feel sick.
Okay, just see exactly how close you are to death's door. Tongue. That's biologically impossible.
Going to school.
I don't want to go to school. No. No.
All right, love. You okay?
Mike had a spelling test yesterday.
Oh, yeah?
Said he copied all the words from the boy next to him.
That's showing some initiative, right?
He got 0, Peter. Even though he copied, he still got 0.
Maybe the boy next to him's a crap speller too, eh?
No, the other boy got them all right. Our son can't even copy.
Oh, sweetheart.
Oh, and then I tell you what, pieces there.
Catch up. Sorry, love, I'm gonna have to dash now. It's the men's final.
Read this passage for me.
Maybe you're just stupid. Stupid! Can't even spell his own name.
Mike's just a slow learner, that's all.
STUPID.
Why am I different? There's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with you.
Where have you been?
He's got dyslexia. They say it can run in families. He has difficulty reading and writing.
Is that what they call it now? Dyslexia. Well, that must have been what I had, and I came out of it all right.
You got a sports scholarship.
Well, exactly. Maybe that's what Mike needs. Get into sport, get rid of some of that aggression.
He needs more than just a rugby ball, Peter. He needs help.
Dyslexia is not that simple. He said it can vary massively from child to child. He also said that Mike has an IQ of 147. Well, he's incredibly bright.
Well, there you go then.
I don't like to go through life without being able to read or write or to be able to communicate.
Shh. Look. Maybe this school will finally be the one to sort him out. No, he will. Come here. Let's watch a bit of telly, eh?
I've just spent an hour calming Mike down.
Okay, great.
It's getting worse. He's
So
third school this year,
we
Peter.
will pause the video for now and take our group photo. And for those who want to still stay in the call, you can actually stay in the call because the video will still be playing. We want to stick to time and finish at exactly 8:30 like we promised. So what we are going to do is that we want all of us to turn on our videos, and Lady Rosa would take a screenshot of all of us from her laptop, and then we close today's space. But the video, mind you, the video will still be playing after the picture taking or the group pictures. So you don't also have to leave. You can continue the video. So I hope you're all ready. I want us to turn on our videos quickly. I know we may be tired, but let's put on our smiley face and take this photo. So Lady Rosa, are you ready?
Yes, I am ready. So I will be
Okay.
going from screen to screen, and we currently have 5 screens. So
That's amazing.
any click you scare is one screen that I've taken. And so let's go now. Make your beautiful smiles while we take these beautiful pictures.
Yeah, and also if you can't take for some reason you can't turn off your video and turn on your video, that's all right. Once you have a picture in the background, that's fine. You'll be captured as well. So we can go.
Yes, I am done taking the videos, and so we want to close exactly on the dot at 8:30. However, the video we are watching is left with about 9 minutes, so you can stick around and enjoy it. But I know some of you have seen it before, so if you like to excuse yourself, that is fine. But I'll hand over to Esther to give the closing remarks. Thank you.
Yeah, so thank you so much. We are so grateful to all the volunteers that made this possible, to all our partners, Europe Kids, we have the African Dyslexia Group, and also the volunteers, and also you as participants. We are very grateful that you showed up. So tomorrow at 6:30, same time, please do well to show up, and then let's continue this training, because in order to make the impact that we want to see in our educational system, we need to invest in knowledge. And so by investing in time and being present, that's enough so that you can go and effect change wherever you are. So thank you so much, and see you same time tomorrow, but the video will be playing as well. Thank you.
Diagnosed, and none of these schools are able to help.
What about that dyslexia specialist?
What? The one we can't afford?
Well, there must be someone who can help.
Good morning. Where can I find books on dyslexia? Pup pets. Pup pets. Brilliant. So. Brilliant. Try again. So do you remember what this one is? Oh, now this one's tricky. Important. Well done. Because syllables are important. Here. Yes. And I'll try it all in one. Troll. Yes. Yes. I'm gonna get the troll. No. Go on then. When you're up against a trouble, meet it squarely, face to face. Lift your chin and set your shoulders. Plant your feet and take a brace. When it's vain to try to dodge it, do the best that you can do. You may fail, but you may conquer. See it through.
Brilliant. You two are bloody brilliant.
That's why he needs to go to a better school.
Come here, son. Well done. It seems your son Mike is doing very well, and you would like to enrol him here.
Yes, and we won't be able to pay the fees.
Ah. So, what on earth are you doing here, Mrs. Jones?
I have a proposition to make to you. My son Mike has dyslexia, but I've managed to teach him to read and write. How about, for a reduced fee, I will run a dyslexia department here in your school to help children with learning difficulties.
But we have no one in our school with dyslexia.
Oh, yes, you do. As many as 1 in 5 children has dyslexia. They're branded as either slow, stupid, or lazy, which harms them. They can become disruptive.
What qualifications do you have with regards to dyslexia?
I've read everything there is to know. English can at times seem illogical, but most words, well, they follow rules. I've created games and methods to enable dyslexics to learn. This one I call the pokey game. There are about 200 words that don't follow any rules at all. They need to be learned by sight as a visual memory. I will call out one of these tricky words, and then the pupil has to poke a pencil through the correct hole. Why don't you have a go? Said. Oh, you see? Mr. Freeman, I have lived years with the frustration and torment of seeing my son go through hell. I've seen a happy child turn into a defeated, introverted child full of anger. I know what it's like. Let me help them.
So the movie you just watched, it's a true story. It's not just a movie, but it's a true story. And I don't know if any of you have been on our program where we invited Mike Jones with his beautiful wife, who is also a dyslexic, Tiffany Jones, who came on our program one time ago to talk to us. So it's a real movie, and you can see the trauma Mike went through growing up, and his mother took it upon himself to find solution for his son. And today they own the product, the learning product called Nessie, if you have heard it before. And so this is the change that happens when you are informed and you have your informations right, and you take the interest upon yourself that you want to make a difference. This is what happens. And so I encourage you, the movie's title is Micah, and you can look up for it on YouTube and watch it. It's really inspiring. You can watch it with your teachers, you can watch it with your families at home, and I'm sure they will benefit a lot. We say a very big thank you to Dr. Sethi for her presentation, and we look forward. Please tomorrow come on early, because if you realize we are not joking with the time, we start right on the dot. Come early and let's progress inside, and make sure you have your calendar set so that you can benefit from all the trainings from now till July. At the end of July, you will get a certificate by taking few questions test to show that you indeed participated in the training. If you have your family or other colleagues who are interested, this video will be edited nicely and posted on YouTube, and you can let them watch before joining our next training, which is tomorrow. No, it won't be ready tomorrow. So today's and tomorrow's will be edited and posted on YouTube, and then they can re-watch it and join April training as well. So we encourage you to mark your calendars, and thank you all for sticking with us. Thank you. Is Esther here? Okay, so that is the end of today's presentation, and we really appreciate you. Have a blessed weekend, and see you same time, 6:30 tomorrow. Bye.
Bye.